Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do I have a treat for you? Welcome back to America's Racing League Friday Multiclass Series Season 10. Tonight, we are at round 4 at possibly the most famous racing circuit in the world. It needs no introduction. Welcome to the Circuit de la Sarthe, better known as Le Mans, for a 2-hour feature race here featuring GT3s, LMP3s, and LMP2 machinery. We did miss out on qualifying, but I can promise you this. I do have the results for that. It is a long session. It is a long race. I am on my own tonight. I decided I'd skip qualifying, give myself a little bit more of an opportunity to have energy throughout the race, but I will share those results once they come in, and they should come in any second. Last couple of drivers coming across the line, but before that happens, we are going to get going with the championship standings coming in to round 4, and leading off in the LMP2 field, we have Adam Taraj in first place at the moment, and Dencion De Leon Hernandez in second, Javier Sanabria third, Fernando Deutsch fourth, Tony Sparks fifth, Dove Myers in sixth, Randy Magruder in seventh, eighth is Devin Anthony, Jacob Lozano in ninth, and Leon Vindel in 10th. It is very tight all the way through the LMP2 field, and we will see what the LMP3 has for us. A little bit more spread out at the top with Nunzio Alonso with a very hefty 29-point lead across of Jacob Wright at Ligier, clearly doing work over the vastly preferred Ginettas. I feel like I prefer Ginettas myself, kind of like them. But the Nunzio clearly doing well in the Ligier. Tyler Moore is in third place, Ricky Bobby fourth, Leon Vallejo in fifth, Kurt Von Otten-Reed in sixth, Joshua Nelson seventh, Daniel Kent eighth, Rem Wink is in ninth, Todd Tillery is in 10th, and Danny Campbell, with the page all to himself, is in 11th position. Moving on to the LMGT3, we have Chase Jones with a absolutely commanding lead so far over Kevin Sarah Lozano in second, Tetsuo Hideyoshi in third, Alex Bonacorda in fourth, Diego Alberto Ramirez St. Clair in fifth, Denzel Kitchens in sixth, Edward Pena in 7th, Michael Molina 8th, Carlos Lopez in 9th, Alberto Montes in 10th.
Teams and drivers go to
There's the switching to the race session as the French announcer shouts in our ears, Aldebert Duran, in 11th, Daniel Myers in 12th, Rob Ruggiero in 13th, Andres Gonzalez in 14th, and Richard Mites is in 15th with Jason Marte. 1 point to his name, but still clinging on to 16th position. And I believe our guys are going to start gridding up immediately. Hopefully I'll be able to get through the qualifying session results, as I don't have long to do it, but I will go for it nonetheless. That is the wrong page. My apologies. Taraj is on pole, followed by Anthony, Deutsch, Magruder, Leon, Myers, Sanabria, Sparks, Vindel, and Lozano in the P2s. Otten-Reed on the pole in LMP3, followed by Nelson, Bobby, Moore, Vallejo, Kent, Wink, Tillery, and Campbell. In the LMGT3s, we have Marte on the pole, followed by Hideyoshi, Ruggiero, Chase Jones, Pena, Mite, Lopez, Bonacorda, Sarah, Kitchens, rounding out the top 10, and Anderson, Duran, St. Clair, Montez, and Raza in 15th. I know for a fact that not all of that is accurate. We definitely have some non-starters on the field. I think we have 20 cars that are going to get us going in this race. We have Taraj on the pole in the ELMS spec LMP2 cars, absolute missiles. And with a 2-hour race, I must say I'm looking forward to some good old-fashioned multi-class racing, some multi-class moments. Lots to look forward to. A decent grid for sure. and quite a few competitors in each field. 10 LMP2s, 9 LMP3s, and I believe 8 GT3s will be taking the start. It is, well, it's a short formation lap in Le Mans Ultimate, but it is the longest formation lap, as it is the longest circuit. So plenty of time for drivers to maybe put a little bit of heat into their brakes if they can, drag them all the way towards the start line. It's tends to be an exciting braking zone coming through Dunlop and into Dunlop chicane. But here they come now, rolling down past the pit entry and through the Ford chicanes. We'll see how it all goes. It is completely wide open here. Fortunes to be earned or drama to ensue. It's all calm now. All these cars going the slowest they will be all evening. We're around the final corner. We are waiting for the green flag here for the Friday Multiclass. This is round 4, and off we go here for the 2 hours of Le Mans. It's a good start for our pole sitter Taraj. It's a good start for our pole sitter Ottenreed and LMP3. They're going through Dunlop corner. Not much of a corner to think about, but this braking zone can get the best of you. If maybe you have cold tires, he's got the best of Taraj. He's gone super deep into the first corner, cuts that completely, but he's going to have to give up speed. He's going to have to give up time that he's earned. And here comes Anthony on his outside, backing out though for the most part. I think we had a bit of movement in the LMP3 field. I think Daniel Kent dropped down just a bit. A couple of drivers favoring the alternate line, favoring a bit of gravel. No early yellow flags, no early drops in position for the most part. A very clean start. A little bit of movement here in the LMP3 field. They're through Tête Aux Rouge now onto the Mulsanne straight. It is a long run towards the first chicane, and all these drivers thinking about their moment. Where are they going to brake? Are they going to go late? Are they going to go defensive? Are they going to take it easy and make it through the corner? Everybody's pretty much line astern into the braking zone. They come in looking steady, looking stable. Adam Taraj, after what could have been a nightmare start, is holding on to it for the moment. Joshua Nelson in the LMP3 field has jumped ahead of our pole sitter, Kurt Von Ottenreed. Ottenreed looks like he's under a bit of pressure from Vallejo. We'll see what that looks like. Still a long way into the braking zone, but he's alongside now. This chicane does go to the left, so Vallejo does have that inside line. They're into the braking zone now. Doesn't seem like he defended it too hard. Maybe thinking about going through the switchbacks. You can hear those LMP2 cars absolutely roaring by. And I think a little bit of turning down the in-car audio. They're absolutely roaring through France this evening. It is a bit of door-to-door between Vallejo and Ottenreed. They're trying to work out who's going to be where, what part of the circuit as they're getting ready for Mulsanne corner. Very, very tricky one. Super long braking zone. If you get it wrong, you're in the gravel. If you get it right, you're a hero. Both of them sort of seeming to come through just about equally. Not a lot of movement. I was going to say not a lot of movement. In the the GT3 field, there's a McLaren backwards in the back of shot. Having issues out of Mulsanne. We're going to stay on board with the LMP2s for the moment. Perhaps going to catch a replay of that in a moment. But this three-way fight is going to take it all the way down to Indianapolis. Who's going to be brave? No bravery so far. Vallejo maybe thinking about a look down the inside. This is good news for Joshua Nelson as he's sort of getting to find some space already early on. A yellow flag for Rob Ruggiero. His rear wing is in the center of his car. That has not gone well for the driver of the BMW coming into Indianapolis. I think maybe somebody else might have gone off there, but I think that's an early end to the campaign of Rob Ruggiero. Let's see. We're going to jump back with Richard Might. See what happens with him in Indianapolis. That would be just going a bit wide, touching that gravel and going around. Fortunately, able to carry on. Now we're going to go back with Rob Ruggiero. See what that looked like. It was a bit of contact between him and Chase Jones through Indianapolis, ending him up in the wall. And, well, we're back live with him now, and without his rear wing and his Crayola BMW, he's taking the alternate line through the Porsche curves. It's not going well for him in this start. The good news is time is on his side, but he is going to lose heaps of time with all of that damage. We're going to jump back to the LMP2 field. Randy Magruder now trying to mount a charge on Fernando Deutsch early in this campaign. Those laps that are coming in now, yes, they are fastest laps, but they're not entirely relevant since it's the first of many we have tonight. Magruder looking quick through Teto Rouge. And the importance of that corner cannot be overstated. It is critical. It sets up for this immense straight, and if you get it wrong, you're going to be under pressure. Magruder stepping out now, thinking about going late on the brakes, but he dives back in, thinking, this isn't my moment, not just yet. It would be a bit foolish to go late on the brakes as he goes a bit deep into the first chicane on Mulsanne. And things are definitely heating up in the LMGT3 field. The slowest cars of the bunch, but by no means sluggish. Reaching immense speeds. This is Tetsuo Hideyoshi, who are on board now, chasing down Jason Marte, who's currently that purple BMW in the lead. Here's Tetsuo maybe having a bit more mid-corner, but maybe understeering, scrubbing a bit wide towards the exits. It's you have a lot of time to think when you're racing at Le Mans, and that sometimes can be an issue. You think too much, you make yourself get distracted. Whoops, I've missed a braking zone. Whoops, I'm in the wall. Hopefully we don't see too much of that. There's quite a few overtakes I see on my replay screen right now, and I might take a look at some of those. That's Tetsuo Hideyoshi down the inside of Marte. A very calculated effort on the brakes. It didn't seem like he wanted to fight that one too hard. But Hideyoshi's taking the lead on lap 2 in the LMGT3 field. And in the background, you can see that's Chase Jones and Edward Pena having their own little fight. It's close now. The BMW coming back into the braking zone for Mulsanne. He goes maybe a bit wide on his entry, a bit slidey on the exit. Maybe losing a bit of pace there, but nothing catastrophic. Another long straight remains. I'm briefly going to pull up the track map, show you already on the second lap the type of delta between each class. I'd be referencing that here and there, but you can already see where the LMP2 cars are in blue, where the LMP3s are in purple, and the LMGT3s in blue. Probably noticed, these LMP3s aren't really that much quicker than GT3s. You'd be right. They're not all that much quicker. The LMP2s, though, they're going to come through the field maybe 2-3 times in this race, depending on how pit stops look. And there's some accurate fast laps coming in now. Taraj 2 seconds quicker on lap 2 than any other LMP2 that has come through. But Le Mans it's one of those circuits that, well, it's most famous for the 24 hours of Le Mans, and let's be honest, a 24-hour race is a bit of a slow burn. It's not exactly moment-to-moment action, but it absolutely will bring some action. You just you gotta wait for it. You gotta be ready for it. And we'll see once the classes start mingling, the LMP2s start overtaking GT3s, maybe a bit of LMP3s and LMP2s mixing it up as well. That's when things get exciting. Fights turn into warfare. So a lot to look forward to throughout this race. Of course, we're just about 10 minutes in, beginning the third lap for most of the fields. And Otten Reed now, it didn't look like he had a ton of pace off the start. Nelson sort of ran away with it at the start, but now he's absolutely come back at him. I mean, he took 6/10 out of the guy just in the last lap, and through Tête Rouge seems absolutely locked in. I think we're going to be seeing a move here going down into the first chicane. Nelson going defensive, staying sort of middle left of the circuit. Maybe thinking about a touch there. They're going to come down into the braking zone, and Ottenried's already well and clearly through before the braking zone. And the Ligier, mind you, is there's only 2 LMP3 cars currently in Le Mans Ultimate, and their pace very similar. However, the Ligier is known to be quicker in a straight line. And you'd think on a circuit such as this, a lot of straights on Le Mans, you'd think that the Ligier would have absolute dominance. But at this stage early on, not so. Ottenried has taken it. He's going to hold on to it for at least a couple of corners. And these two, we were just on them last lap. It was the reverse. Hideyoshi chasing Marte. Now it's Marte chasing Hideyoshi. The gap's coming down. The BMW used to be an absolute rocket ship in a straight line, but it's not so much anymore. As I've noticed, Chase Jones is in the background. But, well, he's missing his sparring partner. Edward Pena is nowhere to be seen. In fact, he's several seconds back in a fight of his own. And, well, I spotted a bit of damage on the front of that Porsche, I'll be honest. Not exactly factory fresh. So I imagine there was some sort of incident. Perhaps we'll see if I can find what that was. I've found the incident. That is going through the very beginning of the Porsche curves, and, well, he's gone a bit round and a bit into the wall, so a slight bash for Edward Pena. But he's back moving. He fortunately had the space to get back going again quickly, but with that damage, he's certainly a bit undergunned. Any extra drag, 5-6 kilometers an hour less on a straight is a lot when the straight is you spend most of your time foot to the floor driving in a straight line. This is Daniel Kitchens now sizing up a move on the Porsche of Pena, weaving around, staying in his mirrors, thinking about it here, thinking about it there. Is he going to try it? He's not quite alongside for Indianapolis. Thought maybe he would be. Perhaps thinking better of it. Indianapolis is not the kind of corner where you want to be on alongside each other, where you want to be wheel to wheel. It's just too fast. Mistakes are too easy, and the cost of those mistakes are immense. After that sector, though, Pena's put more distance between himself and Kitchens. Laps are coming in. Leaders in the LMP2 and the LMP3 field stretching their advantage with their lap times. And see now, there was a... this is Leon Vallejo on Rem Wink that just popped up. Coming out of the Ford chicanes. I think Wink just gets or Vallejo, excuse me, gets a bit loose coming onto that exit curb, and Wink said, I will take that. And he still carries on. That was the move for 5th in LMP3. And it seems like Kurt von Ottenried hasn't exactly ran away at this stage. He's still holding there or thereabouts. The gap sort of... it's shifting. It's shifting for sure. That last lap... well, I don't know their lap times because one was invalid and one wasn't. But I can say Kurt von Ottenried did do a low 47. So, who is to say? Looking on my my replay screen right now, anything that's major. There was so many overtakes at the start. I might just start sort of going through them and talking about them. Let's go to we'll go to the race start here. This is bit of, I think this is lap 1 between Denzel Kitchens and Bonacorda. This is for what was the fight for last place in GT3 coming out of Terre Rouge. And simply coming by, and believe it or not, come back live and they're in the same place, but Kitchens now is the one under threat from the McLaren behind. They're the one that had the incident early on. Kitchens goes a bit wide. The McLaren of Might thinking himself a hero, trying to make that move, but not quite having the exit speed. I'm curious what that gap looks like between them as it's coming down. It's not much. It's a couple hundredths at a time. Certainly not enough to close in. See what they look like in the braking zone. Who's got more confidence? Kitchens on the inside. Maybe unnecessarily defensive, which is going to compromise him a bit. He's taking a lot of curb. Losing time bigly on the exit. Here comes Richard Might. But no. I think the straight line speed of that McLaren. I was commentating a race earlier today at Spa where the McLaren seemed to have unbelievable straight line speed, but maybe not this time. I think Denzel Kitchens actually doing a bit of lifting there to let the McLaren through. He didn't want to fight that. Maybe running his own strategy. Fuel saving is going to be worth a lot. It's going to be worth a lot in this race. And I've only just noticed now, as I spoke about last week, and I've sort of been jazzed about for a while, you've been able to see the amount of energy, amount of fuel in the prototypes. And if we take a look, that's weird. Everybody's at 50% in the prototypes. That's because, well, I assume they removed that feature, which is unfortunate, but I suppose it is a lot more to real life. Bit of, oh, wait a minute. It's Joshua Nelson, who's in pit lane very, very early. He was the one fighting Kurt Von Ontenried for the lead. I was going to say I saw movement on the timing screen, and maybe going to find out what happened there. Let's see if I can find a yellow flag that might give a little bit of notice. That's Leon Vindel in the wall early on. That's not good. He doesn't seem to be moving. And I think that's him back to pit lane. We'll see what happened there for Leon Vindel. Wondering where it was. It was just sort of super loose coming into the chicane, and round he goes. It's not a big incident, but it's something that if you're already struggling in a prototype, you know you have 2 hours of racing remaining. It's something that can be a bit hard to stomach for a race length of this caliber. Tetsuo Hideyoshi has gotten as far away as he's ever been from Jason Marte. And Chase Jones, interestingly, the man who's leading this championship, a commanding lead in this championship, clearly not having the pace at this stage. Something that is absolutely worth mentioning. Tetsuo Hideyoshi just hit 20% VE, and Marte is on about 24%. So it's a push strategy versus a fuel-saving strategy. So we'll see how that plays out once the pit stops begin in earnest. And they should be beginning fairly soon. This is also a 2 times fuel race. So you'd see about 50 minutes of stint length from these GT3 cars. Usually a bit less at Le Mans, a lot more fuel burn, a lot of max rev straight line, and not so today because of that 2X. You might be expecting to see him come down pit lane in the next couple of minutes, quite honestly. Got some people in the chat absolutely spurring on Mr. Nelson, Mr. Joshua Nelson, the man who's ended up in pit lane a little bit early. And interestingly, I didn't spot anything that would have made it obvious that he had any damage. Didn't make it obvious that there was any early incident that would have caused him to need to box. But he's already in pit lane. He's already back out again. Minute 14 down. Take another look. Gotta be something that I've missed. Nope. Nothing that I can see on my screens. Maybe a differing strategy. Perhaps he put fuel in for qualifying and forgot to add fuel for the race. Could be a thought. Can't say for sure. We'd only know from the man himself. I'll say one thing about Richard Might. He had a tricky start, ending up in the gravel at the exit of Mulsanne Corner, but he's really bounced back. He's found his way back up into 5th, chasing down Lopez for 4th. And I will say, he is using more VE than the rest of the field. I will pull up the VE for a second. Please ignore what it says for the prototypes, as that's Lopez into the Porsche curves, having a moment, ending up backwards. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a freebie in the business for Richard Might. We'll see what just occurred there for Carlos Lopez. So he's coming into getting into the Porsche curves now. It's already starting to go super early. A bit of a bash into the wall. It's a bit of weight transfer over a rear engine car. Low downforce. Doesn't take much. You see the top 4 at the moment going down pit lane. Didn't seem to matter if Richard Might was sort of down a bit on fuel, because, well, everybody needed to come in. You can see the virtual energy being poured into the car as everyone's going to go up to 100%. No tire change. I wouldn't expect any such change till... I can't really say, but the LMP2 is coming in now as well, so it's going to be a very, very busy pit lane for them all. The LMP3s, though, with their significantly more fuel efficient engines, shall we say, couple less cylinders than pretty much every other car on the field, have another little while to go before they need to stop. But 2 GT3s have not stopped yet, being Edward Penna. Sorry, I was about to say Richard Penna. I'm mixing up first names. Edward Penna and Denzel Kitchens. They managed to save an extra lap already in the first stint, which seems pretty important. The 2 remaining LMP2s are in the pits now. So it's definitely it's 100% going to be a race of strategy for all these drivers. And I was curious, because I know there were some issues last week with the position chart and showing how many overtakes people have gotten, but you tell me. I think that's a bit wrong. I mean, it would be impressive if Denzel Kitchens was up 21 positions, but that would be impossible since there weren't 20 cars that began this race. Just to say. And Tetsuo Hideyoshi, interestingly enough, this is a man who had a pretty commanding lead out front. It shows what a bit of fuel saving can do if everybody's filling up to a full tank. The less time you spend stationary, more time you'll gain out on track. It was maybe 2 seconds when they came in, and Marte He got it, and I'm noticing Hideyashi's wipers are on. The forecast I've just noticed is I'm going to, I can find the button. There she is set for light rain. Ignore the chance of rain. 65,000% is a lot, but that isn't quite accurate. But at the moment, you can see 20 degrees on circuit, but no rain thus far. I do think, though, I'm seeing some raindrops on these race cars, and the wipers swinging would also give me a different indication. This is currently the fight for third, but it is the fight for the net lead of this race. I wonder how quickly and what amount of rain we're seeing. The rain is up now to 1%. So not enough to really soak a circuit, not enough to be a concern to drivers as of yet. But everybody's thinking about it. Everybody is thinking about it. So if you go on board here with Tetsuya Hideyoshi, you can see a little bit of rain, but the rain on the windshield, it's not something you can ignore to any degree. Something you always got to keep in mind. Another element to make this race exciting. And, you know, 2 times fuel burn. Not interestingly enough. Throw in some rain, I don't know. It's wintertime in France. It's probably raining at somewhere at some point. So that will certainly shake things up. You see, this is listed as a bit of possible contact between Kurt Von Ottenried in the lead of LMP3 and Lopez. He's coming out of the pits here. It might be just getting close. Sometimes it does that. Yes, it is getting a bit close between the pair. Read it as a possible contact, but no contact at all. But I was curious. I was concerned, if I'm honest. This contact between 2 cars of a different class? That's a problem. We're just past 25 minutes into this 120-minute race. The remaining 2 GT3s have entered pit lane. They should come out roundabout where they're sitting, if I believe I remember, but that's promoted Jason Marte back up to the lead. And I will admit this now. The class leads in LMP2 and LMP3 are simply astonishing. I think we're going to see now the leader of Ottenried. He's going to take his pit stop. I imagine he's going to be followed by most of the field. Most of the LMP3 field, that is. But the class leads are absolutely absurd. 27 minutes in. We're on lap 8. At least if you're in an LMP2 car and you're Adam Taraj. But you've pulled 16, almost 17 seconds on anybody behind. It is going to be a bit of a lonely race for him. But any victory is a good one, even if it ends up being a little bit lonely. The rain up now 2%. Possibly enough to dampen the track just a bit. And when that happens, it is going to be busy in pit lane. It's the closest fight we've got now on screen between Randy Magruder and Devin Anthony. A little bit of GT3 traffic just ahead. I'll pull up the track map for our pleasure. See how spread out the field has already gotten. You know, 20 cars in a field is a fairly good showing, I will admit. That's a good number of cars on circuit, but Le Mans has an ability to make a 50, 60 car field to feel very spread out, make the circuit feel very empty. I do think that as the rain's coming down, it's up to 4% now. As the rain comes down, the circuit starts to change, starts to evolve. Well, maybe it starts to devolve as we see less and less grip. Go on board now with Randy Magruder as he chases down. You can sort of see the amount of sparks, how low these LMP2 cars are, the unrestricted ELMS variants, and he's close coming in to Indianapolis, really not close enough. Lots more rain now, differing lines. Magruder electing to take a wider entry and maybe get more speed down the straight. A brief lockup, as you can hear there. Back onto the straight, though. Didn't quite get the exit maybe that Magruder wanted. But he's on a straight. He's got the slipstream. He's going to move it in ever so closely, but following another car through the Porsche curves on a circuit that's now damp is going to get a little bit sketchy. See a bit of a four-wheel slide there. We've got a McLaren that's going to make it a little bit interesting, but no, perfect time for them to catch that car. Magruder getting held up, losing just a bit there. We'll see now if they peel into pit lane. I haven't seen anybody come in just yet. Nope, they're staying out. They think slicks on the damp track. We have got this. The rain is up to 6% now. And, you know, something worth considering at Le Mans that, or any long circuit, say, you know, Spa, it's a bit of a, can be a bit of a similar story, but it may be a damp circuit when you start a lap, but what's it going to be once you come round again? You know, what's it going to be in 3.5 minutes? Is Porsche curves going to be soaked? Am I not going to be able to go through it? It's something that's worth thinking and something that can encourage some bravery. Maybe an early stop, an early change onto the wet tires. Nothing yet. Yellow flag for Rem Wink. He's had a bit of misfortune coming out of the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight. That has allowed Leon Vallejo to come along and say, bit of opportunity, I think. Joshua Nelson, the man who took the very early stop, actually. I think it's starting to get a little bit the better of some of our guys here. Mulsanne corner, you have your braking point well and truly mapped out, but if the circuit's different than last time, you see that LMP2 in the background get a little bit wiggle. I think that's Adam Taraj, our overall race leader. It's different. The circuit's devolved since the last time you went. The braking points changed, the way the pedal's gonna feel, the way everything's gonna react. The car is gonna want to slide a lot more. It can be very tricky. You got to take it really easy. You can see Rem Wink is doing into Indianapolis. A metered approach. Oh, and he's gone round at Arnage. A little bit of rear locking in these damp conditions. And that's allowed for Leon Vallejo to just get a freebie. I'm curious if everybody's still... Actually, no. I've missed a bit of a trick for the LMP3 field. Since they were able to stop so much later, most of them already went on the wet tire. It's around again for Rem Wink. I think those tires are a bit overheated. The heat soaking into them. They're going to lose a bit of grip. It's Delph Myers now. It's a sustained flag. He's into Arnage as Anthony goes around. It's a pileup for the LMP2s. There's Randy Magruder coming around now. Briefly 3-ride on the exit of Arnage. And these guys are still, of course, on that medium tire. They're going to be wanting to come into pit lane now. Myers chasing Magruder. These guys, they might have to just work together a little bit. Maybe don't jump all over. Jump on top of each other and take it easy. The rain's up to 11% now. That's something that the drivers won't be able to know, really, unless they have an engineer telling them. Oh, it's Alf in the background! That's Dove Myers at the exit of the Porsche curves, meeting Barrier. Here's Randy Magruder coming into pit lane. Relief for him. We're just going to see that incident that happened with Dove Myers. You know, everything seems fine until it just isn't. It's a long slide and a big hit. Probably some suspension damage to boot. We'll see where his steering is at. It's actually mostly straight. A bit surprised. Adam Taraj now, he's on his wet tires. He's coming back out onto the circuit. Comfortable in the lead, maybe uncomfortable for the past lap. The LMGT3 leader of Jason Marte is back, and I've noticed something. Tetsuo Hideyoshi is no longer in second. He's actually down into third, being hampered by Chase Jones, and he's on the wet tire, which means Hideyoshi stopped early. He absolutely did. He's one of the first guys to do it. Chase Jones as well is on that wet tire. Only a couple of LMGT3s now are out on a dry. And it's close now. He's come back into net second. You can see Marte just ahead. I think it's another issue for Rem Wink. He's really not enjoying these conditions. That's in the first Mulsanne chicane. The circuit is definitely getting the best of some of these drivers. Chase Jones sliding wide at Tête Rouge. And he's now going to be the next to try it against Tetsuo. Now, the interesting thing is, the rain is still increasing, up 13% now. And the forecast is still saying light rain with a astounding chance of rain, but we'll ignore that. And if that flips the other way, I mean, we're 35 minutes in. Another yellow flag caused by Daniel Kent. I'll spare him the embarrassment, perhaps. As I was looking back because I was worried about Tetsuo being under fire from the Porsche, and I didn't even notice that he was the one making the charge on Jason Marte. It could be that earlier lap stop from Tetsuo and from Chase Jones. They were up to temperature earlier. They had a feel for how the circuit would be, because here's Jones now getting ready to make a move, as I think we just lost Daniel Kent. But Chase Jones and Jason Marte now are too wide. Marte has the inside for Mulsanne corner. You can see the spray starting to get kicked up. This part of the circuit is very wet now. The rest of it was damp. It usually goes damp, wet, very wet, but it's been pouring rain in the second sector. And now, well, everything's different for these guys. Devin Anthony's off now. We're getting a flurry of DNFs. Campbell has been the first to go. I think we lost Myers as well a couple laps ago. But light rain is enough if it's raining consistently on this sector. But it is truly coming down as Chase Jones in the Porsche. Or excuse me, I feel like an absolute goober right now because I've been referring to this driver as Chase Jones. This is Michael Maleta. Chase Jones isn't here. Michael Maleta has been the car in the Iron Dames Porsche this whole time. It said it on my timing screen the whole time Michael Maleta, BSR, for some reason, I've called this man out as Chase Jones. I would like to apologize to Michael Maleta. You who I've been referring to. I'm just used to seeing the Iron Dames Porsche and used to seeing Chase Jones driving it, but I suppose you're both in it this season, so that's perhaps where my confusion is. But Maleta was in the fight for third. He's now dropped back because of his slide. Everyone on the wet tire probably left that there a little long. Not bad. It's a bit frantic up in the box. There's a lot of buttons in front of me, and a lot of them are shiny, and I get distracted easily. Is the LMGT3 leader starting another lap? They're on to lap 10 now. And the LMP2s, well, oh, hold on. Adam Taraj from the lead is back in pit lane. Was there perhaps an incident that caused him to go back down pit road early? Or, more likely, they need fuel again. The LMP2s do have the least fuel range. They do need the most stops. That is going to be a fuel stop. I briefly forgot that it is double fuel. My apologies. I'm doing a terrible job tonight. But that Devin Anthony clearly had enough fuel in his car to stay out an extra lap, because now he's taken the net lead of this race. As we're nearing closer and closer to the half distance. 40 minutes now. Down 100. Excuse me, not 100. 80 to go. The rain is still coming down. I think pretty much this entire circuit is going to be wet. Curious now. We have Kurt Von Ottenried starting a lap, and I'm just curious what it's going to look like on board from him. He's got some LMGT3 traffic to deal with. Just want to see maybe how much the car is moving around, what it feels like. The LMP3s, they may sort of be within regard of the same pace as a GT3 car, but the increased aero on the car, it's built from the ground up as a prototype to race, you know, like a prototype. Significantly more downforce, big lifts coming into the braking zone for Kurt Von Ottenried. And once it gets to wet driving, any corner is just going to be significantly faster and is going to further show the pace difference between the two classes. But fairly tame. Fairly tame for the LMP3s. I'm going to jump on with the leader, the current leader, I should say, in LMP2, which is Devin Anthony. He's getting ready to come down to Indianapolis, or sorry, he's coming down to Mulsanne Corner, and I just want to see maybe the difference, just tickling the throttle. Using as much TC as he dares, changing up maybe a bit early. Michael Maleta, yet again, has found himself round. That's coming out of Indianapolis. Usually the Porsche 911 GT3R is the kind of car that it tends to be pretty decent in wet running. Ooh, that's Randy Magruder. That's coming out of Mulsanne Corner. He's gone around now on the exit. It's just so tricky out there. And the rain is not slowing. You can see on this camera, it was almost a whiteout looking through the spray. But as I was saying, the 911 GT3R, because it's rear engine, Engine is behind the rear axle. It tends to have pretty good traction in the wet, but it still drives like a rear-engine car, which is, if something's gonna go, it's gonna be from the back, and it's gonna be a bit harder to save. And clearly, Michael Maleta is feeling a bit of that. The good news for him is he's still in third. Still fairly comfortable. See, Devin Anthony now should be coming towards pit entry. He should come down. He isn't coming down. He missed a corner just a bit. I'm a bit surprised here. Having no way of knowing how much energy he has, I'm curious. He hasn't taken the extra stop. So, did he... I'm just going to try to work this out, because he's about a pit stop ahead of Adam Taraj. And he's a pit stop down in terms of strategy. But I'm wondering where he's getting the fuel. I'm wondering how he's managing to carry on. As Alexander Bonacorda is the next driver. That's actually out of the Ford chicanes. Coming around the final corner, and he found himself. Interesting to see him that far over, almost like he's taking an emergency pit entry. He's the next driver to have it swap ends very suddenly. And something that's worth noting, as I'm gonna pull up the slightly different tower here of all of our drivers. You can see that because of the extra pit stops that the LMP2 cars have had to do in the out-and-out pace of Kurt Von Ottenried, the fact that the P3s didn't need to switch onto wets, he's actually ahead of the other two LMP2s on circuit. That is about to change. Adam Taraj is on his heels, but it's interesting to sort of see that play out a bit. It's Devin Anthony, the overall race leader. He's in the... Oh no, he's retired. It's a retirement from Devin Anthony. Let's see here. We do have a yellow flag from him. We'll see what's happening. He's coming through. Oh, it's just kind of a lazy spin into the gravel. But he's kept it going. Wait, I'm not crazy, am I? Am I crazy? I clicked on him and he was briefly in pit lane. Am I crazy? Did I click on the wrong man? All right, so Devin Anthony, he did jump down the order. I know what I've done. I've made a mistake on my end. Everything's going wrong. This is the time where I'm going to admit I'm still very much learning these controls. Still very much learning what all is going on. I hit a button. And that button changed my entire timing screen. So it made it look like Devin Anthony had DNF'd. And had retired. I also saw him briefly in the pits. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Doing my best. Daniel Kent in the Ginetta, though, is the next to lose it. That's coming out of... I believe that's Arna. No, that's not Arnage. It's actually coming down towards Indianapolis. That's Mulsanne corner. Having a bit round, and honestly, there's something to be said. You can see on the mixed board where he is, depending on, compared to the rest of his class, compared to the rest of the field, and it's still a points haul. you are judged not where you finish overall, but where you finish by class, and he's currently sitting in 6th place in class. That is a non-insignificant points haul. Vallejo now having a bit of a moment in the chicanes. The rain has dropped to 15%. However, the track condition has increased from very wet to extremely wet. And that's, I believe, as wet as it can possibly get. That may be 100% wet. On the circuit, Tyler Moore now having lost it. Also in Mulsanne corner. It's a difficult corner on the best of days. I can imagine it is a whole. It's a trial just to get it done. Does mean now? Actually, that was out of Indianapolis. Excuse me, or out of Arnage, coming out of Indianapolis, where Tyler Moore had lost it. And we'll see now that Ricky Bobby's within viewing distance. Is he gonna do anything brave? Is he gonna chase him down? But I don't think he has the pace to do it. The gap did come his way because of the spin, but well, it's there or thereabouts. See how it's looking through the end of this lap between the pair. As well, I'm gonna guess that Ricky Bobby did not have the best of last laps or entered pit lane. I don't know. There's too much to keep up with. It is very tricky when what I'm struggling with, just to be fully transparent, is I'm used to. Oh no, I think I just saw a yellow flag for Joshua Nelson. I'm used to a certain amount of a certain innate strategy from cars, and the onset of the wetness, the onset of not knowing how much fuel is actually the fuel mileage of these cars, making it just a tad tricky. Devin Anthony, I know, pitted recently. That means Adam Taraj back into the net lead, and yep, the LMP2 cars are now coming in for their second stop. Joshua Nelson has already done his, as he had stopped earlier in the race, so he's a bit sort of off strategy. But looking at the timing screen, looking at the lap times, the only two men, well, I'd say three drivers that seem comfortable, that seem to be on their own pace, are the three leaders in class. That being Adam Taraj, that being Kurt Von Ottenreid, and that being Tetsuo Hideyoshi. They're all seconds quicker than others in their field, and they found their footing. That is so important to do in a race like this, where it isn't about being fast. It is about being consistent. It's about keeping it in between the lines. And I have a feeling that their lap times being quicker are more as a result of just not making mistakes rather than being super quick. Oh, that's a commentator's curse. I've only gone and spoken it into existence. That's a mistake from Kurt von Ottenried. However, he has such a gap over the rest of the field that he could do that 5 times before it becomes an issue. That was coming out of the final corner. Swapped ends on him a bit, kept it going, kept it out of the wall, and carries on like nothing ever happened. That's Tetsuo Hideyoshi and Edward Pena in the pits, and now exiting the pits. They needed virtual energy, so they've now gotten some. Seeing that Jason Marte has now taken over the lead, is stretching his energy advantage. Michael Maleta, 16%. It's excuse me, Tetsuo Hideyoshi has just come out of pit lane, and that makes it so Jason Marte has a full quarter of a tank over his rival for the lead. And this now is showing the per field gap. Or the, but it's, see the immense amount of field spread. There's Randy Magruder coming around Tetsuo Hideyoshi. It is a bit easier to brake in a GT3 car in the wet than it is in a prototype, I can tell you that. GT3s with ABS, they're the only car in the field that have it. Just a little bit easier, a little bit less tricky for sure. Some of these guys, more struggles for Joshua Nelson. A brief trip through the escape road into the Porsche curves. I believe that was Kurt von Ottenried. I believe that may have been coming through. The good news, if there were to be any, is that the rain is slowing. We're now down to 5% rain. The track could start drying up. It's a bit of a three-way fight that I've been entirely missing in the GT3 class. We'll get a bit of a replay to see where a position was just changed. Both drivers maybe missing the corner slightly. And Bonacorda maybe lifting a bit more to avoid any track limits penalties. Richard might less so. Less so, shall we say. These three are the closest of anyone on the field. They're all fighting over the battle for the wooden spoon, as I like to call it. Just sort of hear how slowly that Porsche is going through there. And it's not because Edward Pena is the slowest driver in the universe. No, it's because that's all he feels he's capable of doing in order to keep everything together. Bonacorda now is getting a bit closer to his Coca-Cola rival. Braking early, well before the actual turn-in point to get ready for Indianapolis. That's just how wet it is. The rain is almost stopped now. See the Corvette driver getting in the mirrors a bit of Richard Might, and that's sometimes all you need to do to force an error like that. You show to the inside, you're like, I'm gonna get you on the brakes, even though you have no intention of doing it. These two are too wide, heading towards Porsche curves. Bonacorda has the advantage. He's just a bit ahead. He's fully ahead. He was on the inside, but maybe running a bit wide into the entry. And this bit of circuit is tricky enough, let alone when you have a big angry McLaren 720S GT3 Evo 2 to give it its full legal name. in the mirrors. But he's held it together now. He made one less mistake that lap than his rival. Sometimes that's all it takes. Rain is 2%. It's really slowing now. 15 laps for the leader, Adam Taraj, who's had it all but to himself since the green. The driver who's in second on track is the leader in LMP3. That is Kurt Von Ottenried. Like, I've been singing his driver's praises. They've just been so impressive. Outside of that, the spin on the final corner a lap or two ago from Kurt Von Ottenried, there has been no visible mistakes, no visible, chinks in the armor. And considering their leads both are a minute plus, I think they can relax. As much relaxing as there is to do in a race like this. Joshua Nelson going slowly, exiting Indianapolis. I think he went off just a bit. He was either on an off strategy or forgot to fill up his car with fuel after qualifying, and that definitely shot him in the foot. He had to stop a handful of laps early from the rest of the field, and that's put him at a huge disadvantage. And I think the rain has not been kind to him. But I actually was speaking with a friend of mine who, before this race, who does not know anything about racing, and I was sort of telling him this is what I was about to do, and he said, is this something where it's just like whoever's the fastest wins, or does it, do the tires matter? Does the fuel matter? And I told him, I was like, oh, it absolutely is going to be a strategy game on a circuit like this amount of track length, this amount of fuel burn, this amount of variance in the weather. It absolutely is going to be a game of strategy. And Jason Marte is currently winning that strategy game. He's on 1.2% of his energy as he's coming through the final lap and might be cutting it close. He's on 0.8 now. He's not quite to the pit lane, but he's still giving it full beans. I think he's gonna absolutely nail this. No, he's on 0% VE, according to what I can see, but would be a stop go if he goes over his energy allocation. There it is, the stop and go penalty for Jason Marte. I was thinking he was going too much. He used too much fuel coming into pit lane, but if you go over that allocation, it's a stop and go 30, which is a huge deficit. I was singing his praises, and he had the strategy right. He had multiple laps he could put on this man, Tetsuo Hideyoshi. But now he's gone and shot himself in the foot just a bit. Tetsuo now is going to take the lead, and he's going to see that stop go. He's going to see right now on his timing screen, on his relative, he sees Marte, BMW, Big Red SG. So not only does he take the lead or retake the lead after the pit stop, but he knows that there's another pretty much full-length pit stop that Jason Marte has to take. So it's a relaxing scenario for all of our leaders. little bit less relaxing, though, for Kurt Von Ottenried. I think he's taken his stop, and maybe Tyler Moore. Actually, no, I think Tyler Moore did take his second stop. So Tyler Moore took something of an early stop, something of an off-sequence stop, perhaps, and gap now back to where it should be in their field being, oh, well. I don't even know what I'm talking about, basically. Tyler Moore and Ricky Bobby are coming down pit lane for their third stop apiece. And Kurt Von Ottenried just extending a bit, running a bit longer, carrying a bit more fuel saving, carrying a bit more energy. We'll go on board with him for just a moment. I was curious to listen to if there's any amount of lifting and coasting going on, but coming into the chicane, none such. In wet conditions, you already use significantly less fuel. You're already going significantly slower. For this man, it's about 35 seconds a lap slower. Half a minute slower. Just consider how much less fuel you end up using. You know, you're not accelerating as quickly. You're braking earlier. So he's maybe thinking that at this stage, fuel save isn't necessary. It's also comfortably in the lead, very comfortably in the lead. So perhaps a bit unnecessary from him. And based on his performance thus far, I am very confident with his ability. Is Adam Taraj now taking his stop? This will be the LMP3's third of the night. And he'll be stationary for a little bit. He'll get put back up on the jacks, sent down, and sent out to continue to blitz it. The rain now has officially stopped, but the track has not dried out at all. It is a large and long circuit here, the Circuit de la Sarthe. And, you know, it does take a bit of time to dry out. Especially when there's only now 16 out of the 20 starters that we had. You know, 13 cars. I mean, think about 13 cars basically trying to dry out 8.5 kilometers of, or sorry, 8.5 miles, 13.5 kilometers of freeway. You know, completely dry it out, suck up all the moisture. I mean, you can see the amount of spray coming off the back. That is water being lifted. That is drying beginning to happen. But, not exactly gonna be quick. So I have a sneaking suspicion that by the time we come to a checker in 52 and a bit minutes, the circuit might be closer to dry scenario. Maybe wet tires won't be on any of our race cars. Maybe it'll be back to slicks. The field is so spread out in so many points. Sort of, I always appreciate when any sort of fight on circuit's going to come on screen. It's Leon Vallejo on the back of Tyler Moore for the bottom step of the podium. These two were fighting earlier on in this race, back when the sky was a bit bluer and there was a bit less water. But they're back to it again. You can see on that last lap, Tyler Moore clearly made some mistakes. That's put Vallejo back on the back of him, back in contention. Nelson's in the pits again. his off sequence. Maybe not doing him too many favors. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit for Tyler Moore. I'd be surprised. I would be surprised if he was perfect out of it. I've got a new idea. It's a drinking game. Every time there's a yellow flag, you take a sip. Possible alcohol poisoning may be involved, but you know, who knows? The gap is really, really stable, around 8/10 between the two. I feel like coming through the Porsche curves, things sort of very likely to change. A huge moment and a very, very good save for Leon Vallejo at the exit. All over the place, losing well over half a second to the man who's currently in third, but super, super impressive in these conditions. It's already in a prototype, honestly, in any race car. Once it begins to go, you got to do a lot to bring it all back. But he did, in fact, bring it back. He did, in fact, save it, rescue it, take it on the chin. A little bit more on the exit there. You can tell how hard he's pushing because the gap was coming down again, and another mistake in another traction zone means another half second towards Tyler Moore. But it's coming back his way. Teto Rouge now. Oh no, it's round again! Through Teto Rouge, one of the most important corners on the circuit. And it's a big moment for Leon Vallejo. I'm going to go back on with that. I just want to see his onboard and how quickly the car goes round. It's not much for, really trying to react. It's not a whole lot you're able to do. But he's back running again. A sigh of relief, perhaps, for Tyler Moore. See now another instance of opening up that track map. There are a few less dots than perhaps there were at the start, but it's a sprinkling of racing machinery on the Circuit de la Sarthe. Everybody's sort of everywhere, and it's fully become a race of survival. I think it's been a race for survival for most of these drivers since the first drops of rain hit their screens. They saw the first time that wiper came on, everybody maybe gasped, maybe sort of took an extra long blink and took a deep breath because they knew it was about to get tricky. We've been without rain for a couple of laps now, and the circuit isn't getting any drier on any part of the lap. The lead in each class, it's come down in LMP2. I think a bit of pit cycling is occurring, but it's nowhere close to a fight. And this is sometimes what happens in a longer race. You sort of, drivers need to pace themselves. They need to focus the right amount. And if you haven't practiced in wet conditions, especially since the wet physics have been completely overhauled a couple of months ago, it's a bit of a shock. It's a bit tricky. I myself, with a good friend of mine, we spent I think 3 or 4 hours going through We didn't quite make it through, but our plan was to go through every single LMGT3 car in a daily race, and we raced mostly on Spa in the wets. And it was really my first time driving in the wet for any amount of time. And it was different. It requires a different driving style. It requires a different thought process, and especially switching cars every race made it pretty tricky. You just kept coming into pit lane, and the Corvette of Alexander Bonacorta coming by as well. But you have to consider what kind of car you're driving as well in a situation like that. When we roll a front engine, it's like, all right, it's something sort of happens. You take too much speed into a corner, probably going to be more prone to understeer. In the wet, not too bad. Mid-engine car, right, more prone to oversteer. The Porsche, we never actually rolled the Porsche at Spa. I don't think we actually got to the Porsche. We'd ended up getting to the Porsche, but it would have been, all right, now we really need to adjust now. It really needs to be slow in, fast out. Because it would have swapped ends on us at any moment. I think Leon Vallejo just had an incident, possibly his final incident in this race. That's coming down to turn 4. He's in the gravel now, and he decided that is enough for today. So he returned to the garage. That is our 6th DNF in this race. Leon Vallejo, Rem Wink, both in LMP2 machinery, as well as Dove Myers in an LMP2, and Rob Ruggiero and Carlos Lopez in GT3s, excuse me. When I said there was only 5 DNFs, there's actually 7. 2 more LMP2s had an accident and chose not to continue. Leon Vidal and Fernando Deutsch was early on in the race. Now that Devin Anthony's taken another stop, you can really see what that gap looks like. And you can really see now the speed difference. I think that might have been Tyler Moore that Taraj was overtaking there. Didn't really have to think much about it. It's on a straight. But even in the wet, the LMP2 is a true monster compared. Huge lifts, couple downshifts into Indianapolis. He knows there's a slower class car ahead, so he's got to think this one out. Is he going to do it into Arnage? He's going to elect to wait. Certainly, you wouldn't really want to wait that out in a scenario where the time counts, giving him lots of space on the exit in case he lost it in on the exit there. It's just gives you an idea of the level of maturity, the level of racing IQ that it takes to drive in these conditions. In an LMP2 car, you got to think everything out. You got to consider a lot more. You got to consider that at any moment, quite honestly, these cars could lose it, and you don't want to get caught up in that. And that's not entirely what it's like in the dry. At least I don't consider it. Nobody I really knows considers this person's going to crash at any moment. I like to think that we trust each other a little bit better than that. Tyler Moore is coming up to the back of Ricky Bobby. Those are the two we just saw get overtaken or driven round by the LMP2 leader. See, they're split by a McLaren at the moment, but Moore has really closed this gap up. In the last little while. I think our LMGT3s are getting close to a pit stop. Whatever lap they're on, this is probably gonna be their last for some. For the top two, for sure, they will be in shortly. See now, Tyler Moore losing time behind the McLaren. It's a tricky place to be behind a GT3 car because you just have to wait it out. You really got to wait it out towards a straight. You can see the pace difference between Teto Rouge. That's Joshua Nelson, who was off there. The man who's been willed on by the people in the YouTube chat. And I've just noticed as well that Squick the Goat has asked, does Nelson still have a shot for the win? And unfortunately, no. Well, I wouldn't say no. Realistically, no. However, there's only 3 cars ahead of him. Let's say they all have major incidents. Unrepairable damage, perhaps? You don't know? I don't know. I'm not going to say that should happen and would happen and will happen, but it's not happening at the moment. We're looking now at Jason Marte, the driver who led this race for a little while, handing positions back and forth with Tetsuo Hideyoshi, but overdoing it just a bit with his virtual energy. He thought he could stretch another full lap, and moments before crossing the pit lane, he received a stop and go 30 for going over the allocation for virtual energy. I guess now is a good time to explain what I mean by that. Those who aren't super familiar with the World Endurance Championship, don't get what that means, because you'd think, well, virtual energy is fuel, right? So if he runs out of virtual energy, he runs out of fuel. Not so. Whenever you're driving a GT3, an LMGT3, or a hypercar, you'll have your display. Ooh, a bit of a moment for our leader in LMGT3, Kurt Von Ottenried, in a stop-go, has just been awarded to Edward Pena. Did he make the same mistake? Did he go over his allocation? He did. He's at 0% now. The same exact thing that happened to Jason Marte. He went over his allocation and got the stop and go 30. So when you're driving the car, you sort of, in your car status display, it shows you virtual energy and fuel. Fuel is in liters, virtual energy is in percentage energy. And it's Michael Maleta, actually, that's taking the lead of this race from Tetsuo Hideyoshi. My guess, as he has a moment coming up towards the Dunlop Bridge, is there's a pit stop difference between the pair, and yes, indeed, there is a pit stop between the pair. Tetsuo Hideyoshi has one more stop, one more tank of fuel, so it's not a fight for the net lead. Michael Maleta knows this. Michael Maleta understands this. So he's not going to fight it too hard. He also needed to lift to avoid further penalties. Back to the virtual energy chat. I'm sure I'll get through it eventually. I'm sure I'll find my point. That's Adam Taraj saying, enjoy your fight, gentlemen. I'm going to go this way. Actually, before I get back to my virtual energy chat, which I'm sure is as interesting to everyone as it is to me. I don't think it is. If you notice, there's something different. There's a bit less spray. There's a bit less water on circuits. the circuit has gone back down to damp. In a lot of places, I think it's still very wet in others, but generally across the board, I think the circuit's starting to come good again. And a lot of these cars, they're going to go long on these wet tires, but probably going to start changing soon. Michael Maleta, it's not for the net lead, but it's for a position change right on the back of Tetsuo Hideyoshi. I think he's going to go for it. You can see through the view here, the skies are a lot less gray. There's a lot more sun. It's going to be a late braking battle into Mulsanne corner. The Porsche has it over the AMG. Those mighty, mighty Porsche brakes. Always does this LMG Z3 car a favor. Always does it well. Manages to have that done. Fortunately for him, he knows he is going to have to stop this lap. So if you take a look at the energy, well, these two are going to continue fighting down towards Indianapolis. This could get a little bit interesting, but I think Hideyoshi's got the overrun. He's got the over on him. These two, I think, just having a little bit of fun. But you can see Michael Maleta, 5%. He doesn't have enough for another lap. He's going to have to come in, make his next stop. So this fight will be ended. And I think that's a bit of a shame, because I was quite enjoying this. I am still quite enjoying it. As the circuit's drying up, drivers are regaining their confidence. They're getting back up to speed. That means, hopefully, that they'll start racing each other a bit more. Here's Tyler Moore on Ricky Bobby, who went very deep into Arnage. And Tyler Moore had a bit of a wiggle of himself, fortunately going right instead of going left into his compatriot. See now how they look as we go properly on board. How much quicker they're going. How much more throttle they're using. How much greater grip is on the circuit, and maybe the level of confidence. They seem to be there or thereabouts. Equally confident, equally quick. Maybe a little bit wide at the exit from Ricky Bobby. Maybe a bit of lifting from him to avoid a track limits penalty. The Lyco from Tyler Moore as well. Coming into the chicane, he's getting out of shape. Oh, and it's a big hit into the wall for Tyler Moore. He saw the lights. He got close for second place, but he got it loose. See that again from the off-board. Coming in now. We're good. It's loose. We're not good. We're not good. Tags the wall. Manages to straighten it back up and carry on pretty safely. But the gap now, well, let's just say he's going to have to work to get that back, and that damage on the car, probably not the most comfortable. I'm going to do the sanity check of the steering. Is it straight or is it not? I have a feeling it's surprisingly so. It is straight. It is straight. No steering damage, and that was a big hit, so a bit impressed. He's going to have to work hard to close that gap down. 7 seconds. He's got half an hour to do it, and probably a pit stop for tires. Is the temperature of the circuit's come up just a bit as well, and that's one of those things that can be an indication of Tyler Moore, I think, is maybe rushing things just a bit. But it's an indication of, you know, the circuit drying out. You don't have a layer of water over it. Here's Edward Pena taking his stop and go. That's just gotta hurt. He was in really good position. He was sitting in second place in this race, and now he's got to sit for a while the cars ahead of him carry on. I mean, the stop and go 30 is ultimately an extra pit stop of penalty. It shows the price to pay if you go over the virtual energy allocation. And maybe now I will decide to finish my point about that virtual energy. It's the system is designed so that for those of you who know things about race cars and GT3 cars specifically, they're all different chassis. They have different engines. For instance, this man, Denzel Kitchens, he's in a BMW M4 GT3. That's got a twin turbocharged straight six. The likes of Tetsuo Hideyoshi, he's got a big, I think it's a 5.5 liter twin turbocharged V8, maybe. I believe it's twin turbocharged. I think it's 5.5 liters. It's a V8. It's got 8 cylinders. Those cars naturally would use a bit less, a bit different amounts of fuel from each other. So the virtual energy is designed so that the different fuel burn from the engines mean they can all have the same amount of mileage. Well, at least that's the idea, because they're all carrying different amounts of fuel. I myself privy to the Lamborghini Huracan GT3. It's got a big naturally aspirated 5.2 liter V10, I believe, is the displacement. And here's Adam Taraj putting on the slick tires. He's decided that now's the time to go on. I think he's going to be the first to put on a medium. Actually, Randy Magruder, who's also in pit lane, has put on the mediums. And everybody has seen that now. Everybody can see that on their timing screen, on their timing tower, and thinking to themselves, all right, if they're doing it, it's probably a good enough time for us to do it. Though I think the LMP3s and the GT3s, everybody's going to wait till they run out of fuel before they think about grabbing those tires. And that's Michael Maleta having a bit of spot of bother, shall we say, in Indianapolis. But as someone who drove the Huracan GT3 a lot, it uses a bit more fuel. In a lot of senses, I think I would carry it 107 liters oftentimes for a full tank. And people in Porsches, people in BMWs were carrying 70 liters of fuel. So a lot less fuel, a lot less weight, but an equal amount of pace relative to each other and an equal amount of fuel mileage. So you can go, all that is to say, you can go over your energy allocation, but you still might have fuel in the car. So it's still able to go, but there is a stern penalty for using all your virtual energy, because that is ultimately your fuel tank. You're saying great stream now. Hasn't been the smoothest, I'll admit, but thank you for the kind words. Devin Anthony's in now, the last of the LMP2s. Certainly going to go on the slick tire. Still damp everywhere. The track temperature has not really come up at all. Air temp has increased just a little bit. But I think it's going to take a little while before it gets fully dried out. It's definitely coming to the crossover period for slick tires. It is a bit different for the prototypes and the GT3s. It seems that LM GT3s are capable and comfortable of going a bit longer on a set of wets. Tetsuo Hideyoshi, he had a bit of a moment, I think. Saw a yellow flag appear for him. And we're gonna see that now because I'm curious what had happened. Here's the replay of him. I think it was into oh. This is not the first time this has happened. Now I know I'm not crazy. Just a bit of networking stuff, just a bit of goofiness, making me think that there was a massive crash. I think now some of the LMGT3 guys, as I'm talking about how they can go long on a set of wets, several of them are electing not to. They needed a pit stop anyways, so may as well bolt on a set of slick tires to boot. I'll keep an eye on the lap times as they begin to come in, because I'm curious how much quicker, or if it is indeed quicker, on the wets versus the slicks. As for the likes of Tetsuya Hideyoshi, he's out comfortable in the lead, but he still has half a tank of fuel remaining. So plenty of fuel to go, so he might need to dive in early for a pit stop, though he has huge amounts of room to do it. You really see that dry line starting to appear on the circuit now that the sun is well and truly out. See what this last lap time looks like for Tetsuo. Then perhaps we'll take a look at one of the guys running the slick tires. So 4:24 for him and Michael Maleta. It happened again. Thought he was in the wall, but he's fine. His last lap obviously being a 6-minute 10. You can disregard that. A little bit of side-by-side between the P3s and the GT3s. And the Porsche is not a small car by any means. It actually is sort of one of the smaller looking GT3s, but this gives you such an example of how much smaller and how much lower the prototypes are, how much lower especially and smaller the LMP3s are. I was amazed when I first saw the P3s and the P2s in person, as a braking board in the background gets absolutely murdered by Joshua Nelson in the background. When I was at the Rolex 24 this past year, I was amazed how small they are and how much more compact everything is in reference to other cars. And they're tiny. They look tiny. They look like they wouldn't even fit a human. They do. They're basically built around the driver. I think prototypes are neat. I think not enough people like them. But I appreciate that this series especially, they're getting lots of love. Good old ELMS. Which I'm still waiting for the final bit of ELMS content to come to LMU. Those of you who aren't in the loop, Circuit to Barcelona, Catalunya will be coming next, along with, I'm not sure if it's when Barcelona releases or a bit after, but we will also be getting the alternate circuit layouts for Silverstone and for Paul Ricard. So that will be definitely something to look forward to, because there's several circuit layouts for Silverstone. There are many different circuit layouts for Paul Ricard. I'm curious to see which ones they choose. It is a very dry line coming down the Mulsanne Strait. And a bit of water, maybe a bit of a lockup coming into the chicane. But I believe Paul Ricard has the record for the most number of viable circuit layouts that can be run. I don't know what the number is. I'm actually curious to look it up. And I'm going to do that. Because I can. But that should be coming out fairly soon. I believe we'll be getting a new LMP3 car as well. That's the Decane. The last of the LMP3s is a bit deep for Randy Magruder, but he's on the podium and it can't get any worse. So that's a little bit more trips through the gravel. This is our LMP3 leader, Kurt Von Ottenried, who's in the pits now. Stop number 3 for him. You can see, the LMP3s are a bit split on strategy. Tyler Moore has taken an extra stop in comparison. But I'm sure that's perhaps due to him being on a slick tire, perhaps? I don't know. Let's see. Let's take a look. He did take that extra stop to go on that slick tire. And I also just remembered I was going to share the lap times between Tetsuo Hideyoshi and the likes of the Iron Dames driven Michael Maleta. Michael Maleta, his last lap was actually a bit slower, quite a bit slower actually, than the last one. I'm going to assume that that wasn't entirely representative. Richard Might, though, is also on, or he's actually still on wets as well. There's somebody else. I think it's Denzel Kitchens who's on a slick tire, but he's on his out lap. Excuse me, he's on his first time lap, so nothing representative between the slick and the wet tire, I think. So they're all going along nicely. But this is the problem when I'm put in a room alone with myself and told to talk. I talk about things, I move to another thing, and I forget what I was saying. I think I was talking about decanes, I think I was talking about ELMS, but the decane is the last of the LMP3 cars that should be coming. And the fun thing about the decane, unlike the Ligier and the Ginetta, the decane has a V8 and is quite a lot louder and quite a lot more V80. That's a word. So that's something to look forward to as well. More cars, more circuits, always a good thing. Not the biggest fan of circuits of Barcelona, Catalonia, but it's more circuits. Now I'm gonna see. I'm gonna look up the number of circuit variations for Paul Ricard, since I have ADHD. And I can do what I want. So, according to Google, there is 167 possible variations for circuits of Paul Ricard. That is absurd, actually. Most circuits have one possible variation, one other. I would say Le Mans, this circuit has 3, which are worth mentioning. There is this variant, of course, that we're running on the Circuit de la Sarthe. And there's the Mulsanne variant where they remove the chicanes, and the Mulsanne straight is in its full glory. And then there is the Bugatti short circuit, which I think it's a shame that Le Mans Ultimate doesn't have. I don't wish they'd add that. Driven it very minimally, but it is a good circuit, and more circuits would be a good thing. Still Taraj, still Ottenried, still Hideyoshi leading for class victory. 18 or so minutes remain. I do not think anything will be there to stop them as we're coming towards the end. I can sort of give you a peek into what we have to look forward to in the rest of this series. This, of course, is round 4 at Le Mans. Next week, we will be heading to Belgium. We're heading to Stavelot for Spa-Francorchamps. Possibly one of, I'd say maybe the second most, the most famous circuit of all time, perhaps? Maybe? It's one of the most famous for sure. Host to wonderful races, and I'm sure we'll get a wonderful race there as well. And for the final round, round 6, we're going to Japan for Fuji. Personal favorite of mine here on LMU. Heavily underrated circuit. And that will be the finale of the season. There's still plenty more to come, and hopefully still plenty more to come from me as a broadcaster. Hopefully next week I can tell you there will not be a broadcast. I will not be here. I will be south in Sebring for the 12 hours of Sebring. So, unfortunately, hate to admit it, that takes priority. I love watching race cars, and I would love to watch them in person just that little bit more. So unfortunately, I won't be joining you for Belgium, but I will hopefully return for the finale at Fuji. You guys still playing that drinking game? I remember I told you, every time there's a yellow flag, you gotta have a sip. That was Randy Magruder. He calls that yellow flag. Take a sip. The circuit now is still damp, but as you can see from a lot of these drivers' eye views, it is, that wet line is truly there. It's pretty much dry conditions from where the drivers are sitting. A very big lift and coast for Michael Maleta. He is on 11% virtual energy, but that is taking it exceptionally easy. That is Lyco to the extreme for the driver of the Iron Dames Porsche. And I'm wondering if he's going to... Actually, excuse me, when I said he has 10% virtual energy, I was incorrect. He has 46% virtual energy. So he's actually trying to extend to the end of this race. He's hoping that he won't have to take another pit stop, or others will. That might afford him another position, because it's Richard Might is the car ahead of him, and the gap is such that he has to do something a little bit drastic. He's got to do something a little bit drastic to pull any kind of victory here. And Extreme Lyco? Why not? Bring it on. Would also explain why his lap times on the slicks aren't representative of the pace difference between the wet and the dry. I believe it's just a couple of GT3s now that are still on the wet tire. I'm a bit concerned that Richard Might didn't change tires. He's still in pit lane, and usually by the time you stop, that's going to switch over to update you. He's at pit exit now, and I don't think he changed tires. I don't believe that Richard Might changed tires. Maybe he saw the gap. He saw that there might be an opportunity that Michael Maleta would overtake him, but maybe it could be a ghost machine, maybe a bit of a bug. He has to be on a medium tire. Surely he changed tires. It is worth about, you know, I think 12 or 14 seconds of time spent stationary, but that is maybe taking that to the extreme there on track limits, but he's got away with it for the most part. Richard Might retakes second position, and I do think he's gonna be still on that wet tire. Now Richard Might has 80% VE. Thought that was the right amount. Perhaps let's give me a little bit of touch on the exit. Bit of understeer from the Porsche into the side of the McLaren. But Richard Might has possibly far too much virtual energy. And, well, maybe not. These cars really are only getting about 25 minutes of time. I do believe... Oh, I thought perhaps maybe an update after the end of the first sector. Sometimes those things happen. There's a lot of innate bugs with broadcasting in LMU that even this wonderful, wonderful tool cannot fix. Doing the best we can with what we got. And I think Richard might didn't change tires. That's pretty impressive. Quite honestly, I mean, the circuit is still damp, but spending time on that dry line is going to cook those wet tires. And also going to affect your pace quite dramatically. Quite frankly, I mean, we saw the level of lifting and coasting that Michael Moleda was doing to make it to the end. So to be able to keep up is rather impressive. Tetsuo Hideyoshi, another driver who I do believe took his final pit stop a few moments ago. Yeah, he has done. Also stayed on the wet tire. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they're proving my point that I made earlier, which is that the wet tire hangs on for a lot longer than you'd expect in these LMGT3 cars. We'll see. Tetsuo Hideyoshi is way out in the front, so he's not really concerned. It's more from a drivability standpoint. Maybe he felt like the wet would be a bit more drivable towards the end. We're in the final 10 minutes of this 120 minutes. Is it fair to call a 2-hour race a sprint? I mean, 2-hour races in IMSA are considered the sprint races, so 2-hour sprint. For single driver, though, doesn't feel entirely like a sprint. You can see Tetsuo Hideyoshi staying off the racing line, staying on the damp part of the circuit, cooling the tires. He's going to have to do that all the way around. I feel like maybe a bit of unnecessary risk, but there is a reason these guys are driving, and I'm just talking. We shall see how that all plays out. Check in on all of the race leaders. Adam Taraj coming in to pit lane for his final stop. He is on the slick tires. Those are all the prototypes that remain. I've only just now noticed, as I'm sure the Joshua Nelson fan club saw a while ago, that Joshua Nelson did not finish this race. So I'm going to see, this is a yellow flag. I clicked on the wrong car, but it is Ricky Bobby causing a yellow flag because he doesn't have a rear wing. He's missing an incredibly important piece of hardware on the back of that LMP3 car. He has one back now. But I was intending to click here. So I believe it was the last time Joshua Nelson was on circuit. Let's see, maybe it was a bit of... That would be why Joshua Nelson did not continue racing. That is a missing wheel. That is a missing wing. And a huge impact for him to take him out of this race. That only leaves 14 cars. 2 cars for every minute remaining in this race. The race of survival, the attrition rate has it's taken its toll, and not terribly surprising, it's taken its toll the most on the prototypes. The GT cars are just that little bit easier, that little bit more predictable as a piece of racing machinery. You know, it's still easy to make mistakes. It's still easy to end up in a wall, but it's less hard to drive. Let's just put it that way. I think the vast majority of people sort of really prefer GT machinery is for that level of predictability. It's very approachable from a lot of angles, and I get that. I understand that. However, I plead this. Give the prototypes a shot. Give the LMP3 a shot. It is so much fun to drive. It is tricky to learn. Multi-class can be tough in them, but they are a joy to drive. Drive the LMP2 car. Drive the hypercars. Enjoy the faster classes. The level of racing at the top is incredible. Battles you can get into. There is nothing quite like battling a car in class in the top class while making your way through multi-class traffic. There is nothing that matches up to that feeling, I think, in LMU. It is incredible. On tighter circuits, on trickier circuits, such as what I'm sure all of us will be watching at Sebring this coming week. It's some of those moments are incredible, and it's unbelievable. So I recommend give it a shot. Give that top step a try. It won't be easy. You'll probably end up in the wall the first couple of times, but it's worth it, I promise. I still end up in the wall regularly, and I've driven hundreds of laps in hypercars and in other prototypes. In fact, I will be driving a LMP2 car around Imola for a 4-hour race tomorrow. So if anyone wants to wish me luck, please do. None of my teammates are available, so I will be doing it solo. Love the circuit, love the car, so it'll be a lot of fun, but hopefully I don't end up injuring myself or anybody else. 4 minutes to go. Adam Taraj, your overall race leader, your class leader in LMP2, has started his possibly final lap. He might make it his final lap. We will see. Kurt Von Ottenried. Oh. That was an interesting sound. Haven't heard a Janetta sound like that before. I was curious where Kurt Von Ottenried is. This may be his penultimate lap as well. So no more pit stops for anybody. No more movement. The last opportunity to fight. Last opportunity to leave it all on the circuit. It's been a topsy-turvy race for so many. Already coming in with the double fuel burn for a 2-hour race means lots of pit stops. But the weather came in. It poured rain. It soaked the circuit. And the sun has come out. The clouds have parted. And we're back to a dry circuit. Tetsuo Hideyoshi getting ready to start what could be his final lap as well. The only, I think, thing left to be decided on this circuit is this. Denzel Kitchens versus Michael Maleta. The gap's been coming down. You can see just on that last lap, 12 seconds gained and lost. I know that Michael Maleta is on an extreme fuel saving strategy. I honestly don't think he's going to be able to make it. I think he's going to have to blink and enter pit lane this lap. He's still trying to make it work. He's on 6.7% of VE. And even in not a double fuel race, I think 7% is about what you need to make a full lap. Maybe he feels he needs to lift and coast to make half a lap. But it was a valiant fuel stretch effort for Michael Maleta, but I just don't think it's gonna make this one. I just don't think he's gonna be able to hold on to this podium. And I think it might get decided in a few moments here on circuit. Denzel Kitchens in the M4. Maleta's gonna defend it to the end, even though he knows maybe there's no point. We're all racing drivers inside, and we all want to compete. You're never gonna give in. You're never gonna give up. Who knows? It could change. It could be, something could happen. Denzel Kitchens, though, he can see the virtual energy of the car ahead. He knows that this is their final lap. He knows he doesn't have to do it. Possibly thinking about doing it on circuit. We'll see what they look like through the Porsche curves. This is the final bit of decision, the final bit of positional change I think we have here at Le Mans. Adam Taraj, though, is going to finish this race on the final lap. At the last second, he crosses the line. Devin Anthony crossing briefly behind him. A lap down from the leader. An unbelievable drive from him. An unbelievable statement. Through all the treachery, through all the conditional changes, it's Adam Taraj taking victory here at Le Mans. Another points haul towards his campaign to be champion. Denzel Kitchens actually is the next to cross the line. I see what's happened here. Michael Maleta, instead of taking the pit stop, waited at the line to cross it at basically 0 miles an hour. He crosses the line in 5th. That fuel stretch working against him, losing it towards the end. Denzel Kitchens giving some celebratory donuts. He got the podium in the end. A great drive from him. Here's Kurt Von Ottenried going through the 3rd sector for the final time. Probably really happy that it's not still wet. But knowing that nobody could touch him. Nobody else in a P3 car. Not Joshua Nelson, not anybody could get near to his performance today. Final couple of corners to contest. Tetsuo Hideyoshi has just now crossed the line for the GT3 victory. It wasn't certain, but the man didn't make mistakes. Kurt Von Ottenried crosses the line to take victory. And Tetsuo Hideyoshi, he may not have had the strategy, but he didn't get the stop and go that plagued so much of the leading field for him, and he still has plenty of virtual energy to boot. Here's Tyler Moore now. Only a few cars left that have yet to cross the line. Daniel Kent crosses the line in 3rd. The only other car that's going to finish on the race, the same lap as the leader, Tyler Moore crosses the line to take best of the rest here at Le Mans. I believe that's going to be that's almost everybody. Still Richard Might. He gets the circuit all to himself. And we'll ride along with him to end off this race. And as he does, I will give you the race results. Starting with the LMGT3s, we'll work our way up. Tetsuo Hideyoshi takes victory. Richard Might, the man we're on board with now, is going to take second place. Denzel Kitchens finishes on the bottom step of the podium. Jensen Marte finishes fourth. Michael Maleta finishes fifth. Alexander Bonacorda finishes in sixth. Pena, Ruggiero, Lopez, and Raza rounding out the bottom 10 and the beginning of the did not finishers, followed by Montez, St. Clair, Duran, Anderson, and Sarah. Don't believe any of them took the green flag. Moving on to the finishing order in LMP3. Only 4 cars made it through this campaign. Only 4 cars survived. Kurt Von Ottenried takes victory, followed by Tyler Moore, Daniel Kent, and Ricky Bobby hanging it out, certainly struggling, but still finishing in fourth. With Joshua Nelson, Leon Vallejo, Rem Wink, all not finishing. Campbell and Tillery not taking part. The king of the mountain today here at Le Mans, Adam Taraj, victory overall by a staggering margin. When is all said and done, nobody could touch him. There was nothing anybody could do. And it's victory for him. And more points towards his total. Devin Anthony taking second. Randy Magruder taking third. Only 3 cars made it to the checkered in LMP2. With Myers, Vindel, and Deutsch and Lozano starting but not finishing. Sparks, Sanabria, and DeLeon not finishing, or not contesting this race at all this evening. And that means, ladies and gentlemen, that we are coming to a close here on Le Mans Ultimate, here on America's Racing League, here on the Friday Multiclass season, round 4. Thank you so much for joining me. Maybe next time I'll remember to have a pretty picture, something to end us off on. But this is a pretty enough picture. That's Le Mans. This is relevant. It's relevant. Thank you to all of our partners that help us do everything we do here. They've been moving around in the top right of their screen. Without them, this would be a bit more difficult. Thank you to all the drivers for giving us something to watch this evening. This is normally where I thank my broadcaster. I'll thank myself. That's it's very self-centered of me. But thank you most of all to you all for watching, keeping me company on this race. Won't be able to see you next week, but I will return for the finale at Fuji. Forward to seeing you all there. You all have a wonderful night. Get some good sleep. Stay safe. Watch Sebring next week. That's your homework. Watch at least an hour of the 12 hours of Sebring. Or just watch the start. Maybe watch 10 minutes and then watch 10 minutes and then watch the end. That is your homework. That is a requirement. It is such a special circuit. It is such a special type of racing. Please enjoy it. And I hope you all, again, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you all soon.